The young and the restless spoilers in the restless heart of Genoa City's social elite, whispers travel faster than the fastest sports car in Newman Enterprises' fleet. Lately, one rumor refuses to fade. Billy Abbott, heir apparent to the Abbott fortune, has been drawn into the orbit of a mysterious benefactor, Aristotle Dumas. At first glance, Dumas seems to offer Billy everything he could ever want: power, prestige, and perhaps even a way to outshine his own blood. But as Jack Abbott warned him in hushed urgings over cocktails last week, there is something dangerously inscrutable about this shadowy figure. "Billy," Jack had urged, "this man is shrouded in secrets. One wrong move and you won't just lose leverage, you'll lose yourself." Despite Jack's cautionary tone, Billy's curiosity reached fever pitch. He had spent the better part of the afternoon rehearsing his speech in front of the bathroom mirror at the Abbott mansion. How he would claim his stake, assert his competence, and secure Dumas's patronage. He imagined himself as the up-and-coming titan of industry, eclipsing even Victor Newman's towering legacy. By nightfall, he resolved to seize the opportunity. After all, what harm could a single, clandestine meeting do? Midnight in the park. The city clock chimed midnight as Billy slipped out of the back entrance of Jack's high-rise penthouse and into the crisp spring air. The park on the outskirts of Genoa City was deserted, save for the skeletal silhouettes of oak trees and the distant hum of a lone tram. Billy's pulse drummed in his ears as he followed the faintly glowing lampposts toward the agreed rendezvous point near the old stone fountain. In the dim halo of light, he could almost believe that this was the beginning of a grand new chapter in his life. Yet as the minutes passed, anxiety began to gnaw at him. The fountain's water no longer flowed. Instead, its basin lay dry and slick with age-old moss. No black limousine rolled into view. No discreet driver stood at attention. Instead, at precisely 12 minutes past midnight, Billy discovered a single white envelope perched on the fountain's edge. His name was scrawled across it in elegant, looping script. With a trembling hand, he tore it open. Inside lay a handwritten note, its message cold and clinical: "Consider this your first and final test. You have failed." That was it. No signature. No return address. Not even a scrap of parchment to suggest it had been carried on the wind. Just a cruel dismissal, intended to humiliate. Rage and humiliation. Billy's breath caught in his throat as disbelief and fury waged war in his chest. How dare they toy with him like this? He crumpled the letter in his fist, gritting his teeth so hard he thought his jaw might crack. The Abbott name demanded respect, and he would not be made a fool, especially not by a phantom. In a flash of anger, he tore the note into confetti and scattered the fragments to the breeze. Each piece drifted away, carried off by the night, as if carrying with it the last vestiges of his dignity. A cold wind swept through the park, and Billy shivered, not from the chill, but from the realization that he was alone, truly alone, and that he had walked straight into someone's carefully laid trap. The masked observer, as he turned to leave, his anger still simmering, movement caught his eye in the shadow behind a nearby grove of trees. A silhouette lingered, expression unreadable behind a dark mask that covered every inch of skin except two glittering eyes. The figure watched him with unnerving stillness, as if savoring his turmoil. Billy froze. The mask suggested ritual, anonymity, and menace all at once. His mind raced. Was this Aristotle Dumas himself? A lieutenant? Some hired actor in an elaborate charade? He wanted to storm forward, demand answers, throw a punch. But every instinct told him to run instead. Yet as much as he feared this faceless watcher, he also felt a spark of excitement. This was no mere prank, this was an invitation, an initiation into something larger, more dangerous, and undoubtedly more rewarding, if only he could prove himself. Trapped between loyalties back at the Abbott estate, Jack would be waiting. Fresh from the briars of corporate warfare, Billy knew he could confide in his brother, or would he? To involve Jack now might expose him to ridicule or even worse, an unearned reprisal from this hidden adversary. Besides, there was a certain pride in handling one's own demons, especially if the prize at the end of this game was worth the risk. His phone lay dead in his pocket, no texts, no missed calls. Aristotle Dumas had severed the lifeline before it even began. Billy realized that from this point on, he was on his own terms. He had to choose. Invade the shadows in search of Dumas's true motives, or retreat to the safety of family and familiar conflicts. To back down would be to admit weakness, to push forward would be to embrace a darkness he barely understood. A dangerous proposition. In the days that followed, Billy's life became an intricate dance of visibility and concealment. He resumed his public duties at the Abbott conglomerate, grinning through investors' meetings and charity galas while nursing a private obsession, discovering who Aristotle Dumas truly was, and why he had singled Billy out. He combed through financial records, tapped into inside sources at the Genoa City PD, even shadowed known associates of the elusive Dumas. Every lead ended in a dead end or a polite refusal. Yet in each refusal, Billy felt the faint echo of power, the notion that if he could just break through, the rewards might be infinite. In the quiet hours before dawn, he pieced together a hypothesis. Aristotle Dumas was not a mere businessman but a puppet master pulling the strings of several front companies, each more labyrinthine than the last. Rumor had it he trafficked in secrets, perhaps political, perhaps industrial. And now, it seemed, Billy Abbott was to become one of his secrets. The road ahead now, trapped in a web of intrigue of his own making, Billy faces a choice that will define his future. Does he risk betrayal of his family's trust and his own moral compass in pursuit of Dumas's promise? Or does he retreat behind the fortified walls of the Abbott legacy, content to play second fiddle to Jack and Ashley? Every night, as he paces the polished marble halls of the Abbott mansion, he sees that masked figure standing just beyond the frosted glass. He feels its gaze upon him, a constant reminder that every step forward is watched, and every misstep could be fatal. Somewhere in the darkness, Aristotle Dumas smiles, knowing that he has already ensnared his prey. And Billy, heart-pounding, must decide whether to fight back, to flee, or to embrace the dangerous thrill of the unknown. For in Genoa City, ambition and betrayal walk hand in hand, and the next move could change everything. A meeting without a face. Billy had imagined this night 100 different ways. He had imagined Aristotle Dumas to be enigmatic yet charismatic, perhaps an older man with silvered hair and the kind of presence that silences rooms. He had fantasized about a man cloaked in mystery but not cowardice, a mogul so powerful that even Victor Newman would hesitate before speaking out of turn. Billy believed he was finally about to look that man in the eye, shake his hand, and carve his own legend. But it was time to face reality. Aristotle Dumas was never going to walk through those doors. For all the theatrics, the tests, and the mind games, Aristotle remained in the shadows. Billy had underestimated just how jealously this man guarded his identity. After all, if you've built an empire on secrets, the greatest one of all must be your own name. Billy arrived at the secret location detailed in a second, unsigned letter, this time an upscale art gallery on the outskirts of Genoa City, closed for private consultation. The walls dripped with oil paintings that seemed to whisper judgment. A long, dark conference table stretched across the center of the main hall. At one end sat a single chair. Billy took a breath, pushed open the heavy glass door, and stepped inside. But no one was there. Moments later, the echo of polished shoes filled the space. A man entered, not Aristotle Dumas, but someone else entirely. Enter Damien Kane. The man was tall, clean-shaven, with an angular jawline and a gaze like steel. He wore a bespoke suit, perfectly tailored, and his every movement betrayed discipline and control. Billy recognized him instantly, Damien Kane. Former special ops, now an executive liaison in Dumas's vast and faceless empire. Rumors had long tied Kane to clandestine dealings, insider influence, and silent takeovers of rival firms. Most chilling of all, he never operated without Dumas's explicit command. Billy's eyes narrowed. So he sends his shadow, he muttered, trying to mask the sting of disappointment with a layer of bravado. Kane offered no smile. Mr. Dumas prefers to remain unseen, he said flatly. For now. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even a justification. It was a rule, and Billy understood immediately. This wasn't a partnership. It was a test. Again. The game of disappointment and power. Billy took the seat across from Kane, his frustration boiling just beneath the surface. He wanted to slam his fist on the table, demand to see the man behind the curtain, to shout that he was no pawn in someone else's game. But he didn't. Instead, he listened, because even in disappointment, Billy knew opportunity when he saw it. Kane laid out the beginnings of a deal. A joint venture, wrapped in complex legal jargon, but beneath the paperwork lay something more potent: leverage. Influence. Access. But there was a catch. There was always a catch. This deal requires your complete discretion, Kane said. And loyalty, not to the Abbott name, not to Jabot, but to the mission. To Mr. Dumas. Billy stared at the contract for a long moment, then looked up. And if I say no? Kane didn't blink. Then you're free to go. But don't expect another invitation. It was a subtle threat, laced with finality. Walk away now, and the door would close forever. But accept, and Billy would be stepping deeper into a world governed by shadows and masks, where loyalty was everything and failure meant exile. Trust issues and family ties. Back at the Abbott estate, Jack had been keeping tabs. Though he hadn't confronted Billy directly, he'd noticed his brother's absence, his late nights, his fraying nerves. He remembered the last time Billy fell under the spell of power-hungry opportunists. And he feared history was repeating itself. Ashley, too, had her suspicions. She confronted Jack in the family study, clutching a folder of market reports and leaked rumors. Something's off, she said. A shadow buyer is moving on several of Jabot's satellite accounts. Someone with inside knowledge. Jack, if Billy's involved. Jack's face hardened. Then we pull him out. Before it's too late. But it might already be too late. The invisible strings. What Billy didn't know was that Aristotle Dumas's reach extended far beyond what he imagined. Every step Billy took was observed, analyzed, and measured. Every decision he made was another piece in Dumas's grand design. Even this disappointment, this intentional absence, had a purpose. It tested Billy's ambition, his pride, and his willingness to work with ghosts. And though Aristotle had no intention of revealing himself just yet, he was watching. Always watching. In a private suite atop the highest tower in Genoa City, Aristotle Dumas sipped a glass of aged bourbon as he stared out the window. On the screen before him, footage of Billy at the meeting played on loop. Ambitious, he murmured to no one. Impetuous, but not useless. The game had begun in earnest. Let me know if you'd like me to continue this further, maybe show how Billy navigates this double life, or how Jack and Ashley react once they uncover the truth. This storyline could take so many twists.